everyone, it's Samantha from the Dancing Soap Dish. I hope you're well. It's time to reveal the 2024 Melt and Pour Soap Challenge. So last year I did the Mosaic Soap Challenge where I set myself a goal to come up with a new and different mosaic soap design every month for the whole year. And I think it was a great success. I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun. So I decided that I needed to come up with a new one for this year. I'm up for another challenge. Let's see what we got. And I remember these baby shower party favors I did mid to late last year. I said at the time that they would revolutionize soap party favors because there are just so many different designs. So I thought I better put my money where my mouth is and maybe show you guys great and wonderful ways that you can use them and all the amazing soaps you can make with these stamps. So I've come up with a stamped soap challenge. Yes, 2024's challenge will be stamped soap, specifically stamped soap using these gorgeous little cookie molds that are a dime a dozen everywhere, all different designs. I haven't come across a set yet that isn't ridiculously cute, and I want to show you guys what an asset these cookie molds can be to melt and pour soap making. So for my very first challenge project of the year, I have selected these gorgeous snowflake cookie molds. They are very detailed, and with them I was able to make these embossed snowflake soap bars. So as you can see, the beautiful designs that are on the cookie stamps, I've actually been able to emboss them into the center of these soap bars that are the same shapes as the cookie molds as well. So there's a cutter and there's a stamp. I was able to use both, and what I've done is I've embossed the snowflake image in the center of these two layers of soap here. There's also a little bit of glitter in there just for a bit of sparkle, and they are just so pretty and sparkly and shiny. And I really love the detail, the sort of the fine lines that are really hard to get with melt and pour soap. But these have turned out so well, and today I'm going to show you how you can make them too. So let's take a closer look at these cookie molds. Like I said before, they consist of a stamp and a cutter, a matching set that fit inside each other like that. The cutter has sort of two sides. There's a like a sharp side, obviously for the cutting, and then there's a flat side, which comes in really handy for us because that's going to help us turn this cookie mold into a soap mold. So how do you do that? You do that with PET tape, also known as resin tape. So this is a tape, a plastic tape, covered in silicone. Okay, so we can use it with our cutters here. I'm just going to push them down with the flat side down onto the tape. And so because this tape is covered in silicone, it's non-stick, so my soap's not going to stick to it, and it's also heat resistant, so it's going to stand up to the hot temperatures of melt and pour soap. So I normally cut them up into smaller pieces. They're just easier to work with. I'm making sure that the tape is really stuck to those little flat surfaces there, and just separating them two on a piece of tape is enough. That's a good thing to work with. There we go. Now I've set them on a tray, and I have 200 grams of melt and pour soap here, clear base, ultra clear base. I'm not going to scent it at this stage because I want it to stay nice and clear. And I'm going to weigh out 25 grams into each cutter. So I've worked out that these soap molds, which they now are, cookie cutter soap molds, will hold about 50 grams each. So I want to fill them halfway, which is 25 grams. So I'm just weighing out every single time I do this. It's normally the first one too. I always put too much in and then I have to spoon it back. But hey, at least I can show you guys that I'm not perfect, and I can show you guys what to do if you happen to put too much in. So there we go. Easily fill these all up. I'm spraying them with alcohol to get rid of those bubbles on the surface. And I've weighed out 25 grams into each of these. These ones here have some impurities on the top. I'm just pulling that out. So it doesn't take very long for these to set. There's not a lot of soap in here. These ones I've already removed the tape, which is very easy to do. You just simply peel it back very carefully. There's no sticky residue, nothing sticks to it at all. It comes off perfectly clear, and yeah, real easy actually. You may even be able to reuse those bits of tape if you want to, if you haven't made a mess of them like I have. And now I'm going to match up the stamps to the cookie cutters, which I thought was a pretty easy thing to do, but I actually got quite a few of them wrong, obviously. Not as obvious as I thought, but here we go. So I'm just making sure that I have the right cookie stamp with the right cutter. And you'll also need a good hammer with a really fine head, a small headed hammer. You can't just push these stamps into the surface of the soap and have them work. The melt and pour soap is incredibly hard, much harder than cold process soap, which soap stamps are usually used with, and therefore you will need to use a hammer or a mallet in order to emboss this layer of soap. So I've just given it a good hammer there, and then you just wiggle the handle back and forward until you can pull the stamp away, and there is my embossed soap. So just giving it a tidy up. If there's some little bits of soap fray that have come away, you can just remove those. But yeah, that's pretty simple, just stamping it there. You do have to give it a fairly good whack. I'm also going to put down like a piece of paper or something. Don't do it on the bench like I'm doing. But basically you do need to give it a really good whack, especially around the center. You can take the stamp away and have a good look, which I'm doing here, realizing that probably needs a little bit more in the center, and then I'm able to hammer it again without ruining it, like I won't get double lines or anything. So that's not a problem. So by all means, have a look as you go and just make sure you're happy with how the soap's being embossed. And like I said, pay particular attention to the center of the stamp, around the handle, even banging your hammer on top of the handle, because that seems to be the hardest part to emboss for some reason. But there we go. Those have all been done. As you can see, the impression in the clear layer of soap. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to highlight the design that we stamped into the soap, and I'm going to do that with some mica. I'm using white mica today simply because I'm doing snowflakes. So I've got this beautiful pearlescent white that I'm going to be using here, but you could do this with any color really. Just pick a color that matches the theme of your cookie molds. Okay, so I'm going to slap together just a very basic mica paint. So a mix of mica and some isopropyl alcohol. I'm not measuring it, I'm just sort of whacking some in. The alcohol is going to evaporate pretty quickly, so I'm probably going to have to keep adding alcohol as I go along anyway, but that's fine. I just basically want the mica to be wet. You can dry brush it on, but I find it's just easier to brush it on wet in this case, because we're doing really fine lines, and also you're not breathing in all that dust that happens when you dry brush it on. So I've made myself a little mica paint, mixing my pearlescent white mica with some alcohol, and I've got a really fine tipped brush, and I'm basically just placing the brush in the little groove of the imprint and letting sort of the mica paint fill it up. So I'm just going around and doing the whole design. It's not perfect, like I am getting some paint on the surface of the clear soap layer. That's fine, I can tidy that up later, but I just want to make sure that every single nook and cranny of that design is filled. Then once you've done that, get yourself a dry cloth, preferably one just out of the packet that's nice and clean, and buff off any of the mica that you've over painted or gone outside the lines, until you've just got the beautiful embossed section filled with the mica and nothing else. So that's pretty easy to do. Just wrapping the cloth around one finger and just buffing off any of that mica that's sitting on the surface. And there you go. Now I have some beautiful snowflake designs filled with white pearlescent mica. So now it's time to do the second layer. I've got the same soap base. I'm using the same ultra clear soap base, and I've heated it up pretty hot. You can see from all those bubbles there, it's probably a little bit overheated, but that's fine in this case because I want it to be super hot, because I want it to stick to that first layer so that I don't have my soap coming apart. I've got some fragrance oil here that I'm mixing the same white pearlescent mica into, that I'm then going to tip into my soap. So I've scented it and I'm coloring it white. And I've also got a beautiful blue liquid soap coloring that I'm going to use. So just to give me that beautiful slight blue tint, as well as the beautiful pearlized look that the mica is going to give me. So I'm just giving that a good stir. Probably want my blue to be a little bit darker. This blue soap dye that I'm using is actually quite subtle, so I think I've put 4 drops or so in so far. You might need to add a little bit less depending on how strong the blue soap coloring that you're using is, but I think I'm happy with this color now. Also need some glitter. Don't forget the glitter. Less is more with glitter. So it normally just sinks to the bottom anyway, so I don't tend to add a huge amount, but just put in a small amount there, and I'm giving it a good stir. And now I should be ready to fill up the rest of my soap molds. So I'm pouring onto the spoon because this soap is hot and I don't want the heat to smudge the mica. So if it hits the spoon first and then runs off the spoon onto the surface, you can normally prevent that. I'm not measuring at this point because all I have to do is just top up what I've got. I used another 200 grams of soap, and this is just to do the second half of the soap bars. What I am going to do is I'm really going to fill these as far to the top as I can. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but I'm actually sort of overfilling them to the point where the soap is sort of bulging over the top. I want that to happen because if there's any sort of bubbles or burnt soap, it'll float to the top. I can fix that up later. And so I'm just giving it a spray now from a great distance so that I don't cause the soap to go running down the edges. Got rid of all those bubbles, and I'm going to let that set. So here we are about an hour or so later, and these have set hard. It's now time to give them a quick tidy up and demold them. As I said before, I sort of overfilled them, so there's a slight bulge going past the edge of the cookie cutter. I'm going to just fix that by getting a knife and slicing off that excess, and that will also give me a nice straight and even back of the soap as well. It's just an easy way to really tidy up your soap bars. So just a very small sliver there of soap that's come off. See, you can see there's a little bit of bubbles there, a little bit of imperfection. That was probably a little bit of overcooked soap there. And now I've sliced that off. It's no longer on my soap bar. So it's very easy to do. This is kind of therapeutic. I love the slicing. It's so much fun. There we go. So I'm just using the edge of the cookie cutter as a guide, and they're all beautiful and done. So this should be the big reveal, but if I turn these over, you can see that the surface of them, they're just a hot mess. I mean, they're cloudy, there's a little bit of mica dust on some of them, there's a little bit of overheated soap and bubbles and whatnot. They just don't look very good at all. But this is why I love using these cookie molds as soap molds, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to release them from the mold, or release my soap from the mold, just ever so slightly, push it forward to there's just maybe a millimeter sticking out past the edge of the cookie cutter, and I'm going to do exactly what I did with the back to the front. So I'm going to slice off that very fine layer of clear, and in doing so I'm slicing off any imperfections that were on the surface, any sort of nicks that came from, you know, just being knocked around while I was working on them. And that will now reveal a beautiful shiny snowflake with some beautiful glitter just glistening. That is a beautiful bar of soap. So let's give it a tidy up, make sure that you're happy with it. And again, do the same for all the others. I'm just using my thumbs to very carefully push the soap forward. There we go, there's another one. Stunning, just stunning. That is fantastic. I'm loving these. They are so beautiful. The camera really isn't doing them justice. They are amazing. And when they're wet, when you're using them in the bath or the shower, they are going to be so crystal clear. They will just be so beautiful. So here we go. Only a few more left to do now. Yep, just making sure I'm pushing them forward very evenly. If I push too far, I can just push them back. Just working on them until I'm happy, and just sliding the knife against the cookie cutter as I push it down and just cut that little sliver of soap off. Okay, there were some little sort of striations on the surface of the soap from the knife. If you just give them a rub onto a dry cloth, that will get that off. And now I'm just pushing them up through the cookie cutters and releasing them from the mold. Very quick, very easy, just as quick and easy as if they were being popped out of a silicone mold. And here they are. Let's take a look. Look at the detail on that. Look at those fine white pearlescent lines. I've got good adherence of my layers, which you can see from the side. You can see the embossing from the side too. That is just beautiful and stunning. So here they are, January's Stamped Soap Challenge project. Beautiful embossed snowflake melt and pour soap bars. You can do them in different colors. Here's a little purple one that I also made. Isn't that fantastic? They're just stunning, they're just beautiful, and they were made from cookie molds. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Thank you to everybody who loves to follow along with my monthly challenges. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you love what we do, and I'll see you next time. Enjoy.